3, 2, 1. Sympathy, a TwiLuna story by Giant Neckbeard. Chapter 4. Necklace, 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 necklace. Ah! Big crown thingy, Twilight muttered to herself as she went down the checklist, ticking off the final boxes as a rather unhappy Spike jumped up and down on a large and battered suitcase, trying to get the damnable dang to suck property. That's the elements of harmony all accounted for. Have I forgotten anything? Anything else I need to take with me on this training trip? While she was away, the jury that had served as the tokens of the elements of harmony would be stored in the royalty's home, where they would be safely hidden amongst the wealth of jewels and ornaments the designer kept in her inspiration room. A bigger suitcase, maybe? Spike grunted every time he landed before the suitcase snapped open and catapulted the baby dragon onto the bed. Oh, that's right, my special pillow! I just can't sleep properly when camping without it, Twilight said brightly, having completely missed Spike's complaint in his flight. Levitating the pillow, which lay right next to Spike, off the bed and into her suitcase, and then closed the bulging suitcase with a single push of her magic. Thankfully, still off in her own world, Twilight sparkled a mystic glare from her number one assistant, one that could have melted stone, as she levitated the suitcase out of the room to rest by the door before taking one last look at her bedroom. It was a nostalgic, bittersweet feeling to finally be home after so long, and only to leave it once again so soon. And who knew that living the wooden house could feel so comforting? Spike says he can handle the library. He's already done so for a few weeks now, and I asked Reality to pop in every few days to make sure he's not into any trouble or eating all the gems in one sitting. The purple alicorn thought to herself as she closed her eyes and tried to think of anything she left undone. He has been saying that I don't give him enough space. I still don't get it. Wow. Princess Celeste is making you and Luna go into the Everfreeze Forest to train. Can't you just train in Canterlot or Ponyville where all your friends can find you? The baby dragon grumbled as he slid off her bed and walked over to give his sister a goodbye hug. Because my powers aren't stable yet. Because they keep on spiking like they are, it's not safe for me to practice using them in areas with lots of ponies around. Twilight replied sadly, wrapping a ring around Spike's head and hugging him in return. I wish I could tell you what's really going on, I wish I could scratch that. I wish I could tell you exactly where I'm going and what's really going on, she thought. But don't worry, Luna is with me, so there will be no problems at all. I wish I didn't have to go either, but this is a royal decree, Spike, from Princess Celeste herself. Even if Luna can't say no, I can't neither. Yeah, well, it's not like first let's not tell first you might be setting parts of the Everfree Forest on fire then, Spike said, grinning hugely. The last thing you need is Fluzzy giving to a questionless Princess Estelle. Don't mind me. And Spike, seriously, Princess Celeste has commanded that nobody knows where Luna will be training me. I've broken that decree, so you know what's going on if there's a emergency. So no following us into the Everfree Forest, and no telling our friends whirl around unless it's emergency. Something huge like a second changeling invasion. That goes double for Pinkie Pie. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Remember, scratch that. Why can't I messing up? Imagine if Pinkie Pie stops by to set up parties for you too. The dragon added with an impish grin on his face. I can see it now. You and Luna trying to meditate with Pinkie Pie swinging overhead, screaming "Magic Party" at the top of her lungs. If I need their help, I'll send you a message through the flame skull spell, along with our weekly correspondence. Twilight tried very hard not to smile at the mental image her assistant/little brother had conjured for her. Before hugging him tightly once again at the top of the stairs, I trust you with the library, Spike, and I know you can handle it. And I won't be too far if something drastic happens. More like I won't be too far when you need something. Spike retorted, but did so with a smile. I won't ask where exactly you're going, so no point can get it out of me. But are you sure you don't want to take Ulysses with you? He could be useful in a pinch. More than a brave dragon? No, Ulysses needs to stay here and be your assistant while I'm away. Then again, please apologize to the girls. I can't speak to them right now. Princess Lesson was adamant that I take what I needed from the library and leave quickly and quietly. Twilight started to save and heavily sighed, levitating her suitcase down the stairs after Spike, taking one last longing look around her home for the past 3 years. Goodbye. I won't be long, I promise. Twilight promised her beloved library as Spike opened the door just wide enough to stick his head out and scan the streaks before gesturing for Twilight that it was all clear. It was with a sense of regret and fondness that Twilight Sparkle crept out of her home and seeing Ponyfield shrouded in the faint glow of pre-dawn, and took to the air with her suitcase, leaving Spike behind to care of their home and her friends, to wonder why she could not spend even one day with them after nearly a month-long absence. Scene change. The flight over Ponyfield was brief, but the night air was still very cold, which forced Twilight to surround herself with a heating spell, which also had the unfortunate side effect of causing her to glow slightly. But the trip did give Twilight Sparkle room to think and try to sort out her emotions. There's the cape shop, the schoolhouse. Oh, realty lights are on. Must be working on something big to be up at this hour. Twilight found herself chuckling as she imagined Realty at her desk, torn between getting her beauty sleep and finishing a fabulous new design. Home after home passed under her wings, and Twilight found herself wavering, trying to find excuses to stay in Ponyville just for a day, maybe 2, just to let her friends know she was well, and that was everything was fine. But everything is not fine. Luna and I, assume we're in the same room. Neither of us have any idea how bad this sympathy was going to become over time. Princess Lessa has had to send us away on a training mission to stop the nobles from gossiping about us. So consumed with the negative thoughts that filled her, Twilight missed a pony in the orchard of Apple Acres, staring up at the glowing acorn in surprise as it flew towards the Everfree. Scene change again. The everfree forest such a frightening place. Here the wild grew strong, alone and victorious, without the need for ponies to protect and shape it. It had not always been so. Once it has been a place of exquisite sculpted beauty, the work of hundreds of generations of ponies who have guided and nurtured the land to be the aspects of balance between beauty and bounty and beauty. All it washed away in a single night of rage and fear and jealousy, all because of her childish behavior, all because she wanted to be loved like a sister, all because she wanted, all because she had been so desperate and lonely that she had not been able to see the nightmare spirit for what it truly was. Luna sighed as she stared at the ruined castle, now known to the ponies of this era as the home of the two royal pony sisters. True, she had been possessed by an evil spirit, and true, the ponies had neglected her night and all the effort she had put in to make it as beautiful as she could. But the truth of the matter was that Luna had been sidelanded by her older and more socially adept sister, and despite all their adventures together, Celesta had turned her full attention to rulership, leaving Luna alone with only but a small number of sour-faced servants for company during the long night hours. That Luna had conquered the savage and brutal bat ponies and then brought them into the Equestrian society, spent every night keeping the dreamscapes and minds of the entire kingdom free of nightmares and the manifestations of rogue groups of unicorns seeking to dominate the lesser breeds had never been mentioned. Celesta had claimed it would terrify the ponies to realize their lives were still under threat, but at that time, Luna thought it was just another barrage of excuses that Celesta could avoid sharing the love and affection of the ponies with her sister. Celesta should have done this. Luna might have said that. So many ways they both had missed the signs of the coming conflict and the growing division between them. The bittersweet irony of all, Luna thought glumly as she stared at the ruined tower. It's still mostly intact despite 1,000 years of neglect. We sealed away discord and freed Equestria from its ever-changing chaos. Threw back the Griffin invasion with just ourselves and Star Wars builded. Ended the bloody hoof rebellion over teary scorns and reduced King Summer to little more than a mindless shadow. But the one enemy we could not overcome on our own was ourselves. Now she was here alone again, or nearly so. It would be just TwiSparkle and herself in these ruins until this sympathy with each other's magic could be controlled. Stop! I am not a filly fooler, she scolding herself. The Lunar Princess turned to more fruitful and hopefully less embarrassing endeavors, such as setting up the camp, and thankfully Celesta had kept one of Luna's older experiments over the centuries as a keepsake. A circle of woven moonlight and shadow that could be expanded to be large enough to contain a dozen ponies if need be, or shrunken to the size of a single Bitcoin, a portal to a small pocket dimension, a literal portable hole. Inside this hole, Luna had placed everything she believed they would need: a large basis tent for both princesses, a week's worth of provisions, her bathing supplies, a medical kit, a portable telescopes for stargazing, and scrolls that Celeste has said seemed to be actually useful to the problem. Why are you so set against this? Wasn't it pleasant to be held in your sleep once again? To feel like a male again, rather than Celeste's silly little sister? A rebellious part of Luna's mind as the Luna Princess began levitating the items out of the portable hole. Was it really so bad to be held again? Out? Having to order somebody to do it? Or rely upon your sister to... Enough! I am a princess, not a filly fooler. Luna snapped to herself, glaring at the impossibly dark portable hole as the levitation spell grew unstable with her anger, dumping parcels and boxes roughly onto the ground. Despite her best efforts and the warmth of laying underneath the covers with another pony clinging to her came back to haunt Luna, only irritating her more. Apart from a handful of night guard and some of Celeste's own servants, she had little friendly contacts with other ponies in Canterlot. The nobles were scheming against each other constantly, showing favor to one who caused a veritable storm of chaos, as the lucky noble used that relationship as leverage. The servant ponies were polite and gentle, always unfailingly positive, but there was always a falseness to their accents. They were nice because they were nice, or they were burning her up because Luna was royalty, and there was always the radical different positions of Conda and royalty getting in the way, at least to Luna's eyes. Her night guards, while loyal, were very much gun-ho stewardesses looking for a position where they could not have to serve under Celeste's spotty and old-fashioned generals. But then bat ponies were already ready to fight or chase something down, or anything that required adrenaline, a thrill, and victory. Even General Thunderwing had been something of a rogue element in the Royal Guard, for circumstances had forced the bat pony into higher and higher levels of command. I wonder what Twilight would have thought if she knew. I almost poached shiny armor to serve as my captain of the guard. Luna found herself smiling as she imagined the look of young Twilight Sparkle's face as she found her BBFF wearing dark bat-themed armor instead of the royal red coat Celeste insisted he wear. Further musing was lost as she heard a familiar voice screaming in the distance. Luna looked up in surprise to see a glowing Twilight Sparkle speeding through the air unsteadily, followed what looked like to be giant moths. Even for the every forest, insects that big were odd. Still, they looked to be relatively harmless, but Twilight Sparkle was panicking like they were setting her tail on fire, and technically swinging her suitcase around like a club, was all the signs Luna needed to take flight and go rescue the younger Alicorn from her tormentors. Twilight, what spell are you using to spell it? Luna shouted as she came into the she closed in on the panicking male. The moths are attracted to light. Douse thy light! Luna would later say If she was unsure if Twilight hurt her, or if the younger male was simply panicked too much and lost control of her spell, but the aura of pale purple grew larger and swirling like a soap bubble round Twilight before popping, making the giant moths flutter wildly after the dissipating fragments of the spell. And Luna found herself with a shaking Twilight clinging to her neck and her suitcase flying through the air, hopefully towards the campsite. Oh, Celeste, are they gone? Are they still chasing me? I hate moths. I hate moths. Get them away. Get them away. Twilight squealed, obviously terrified as she clung to Luna with her eyes tightly clenched. I'm not a book. Don't eat me. Unsure what would happen if the panicking male was exposed to more magic-seeking moths, Luna had to struggle back down to the ground with her own wing power. No easy feat, with Twilight grappling her and gaining away of Luna's wings, but soon they were both on the ground by the power of supplies, with Luna trying unsuccessfully to untangle herself from Twilight's gasp. Twilight, it's okay, the moths are gone. Please stop. This is too... What are you touching? Luna muttered as she slowly, awkwardly disentangled herself from Twilight, cursing their predicament, which preluded the use of magic. They still don't know if they would resonate only if their horns was touching, or if their sympathy had grown so strong after the disaster in Celeste's room that it would affect them if their magic touched each other. So Luna had to resort to mere physical capabilities to carry Twilight to the campsite and get her settled, and noticed that Twilight was shivering badly. Cold. Can't use the spell. Mask will be back. Twilight whimpered, shaking fiercely from both the cold and her fear as Luna hastily tried to erect one of the tents with just her hooves, until Twilight fully grew into her new powers and domain. Whatever it was, she was still just a pony with wings and a horn. More concerns such as temperature, food, and diseases were still of concern, and the thought that Twilight might suffer caused Luna to force herself past any fear of the sympathy as she turned to spells in desperation to set up the tent, throwing everything she had unready unpacked into the side of the tent but for the bedding, which she quickly wrapped around Twilight, Sparkle, and praying to the Mother Earth that the buffer of bedding would serve as significant insulation against the more magical mayhem, levitating the silvery male into the tent. Next was discovering where Twilight's suitcase had gotten to. Knowing Twilight, the younger male would be up and rushing about trying to find the ordeal. Following the scent of TwiLuna's magic, Luna half ran and half flew to the very border of the ruins of the ancient castle, where Twilight's suitcase had firmly lodged itself in the tight space between two mammoth slabs of cut stone. There's no way I'm going to be able to move either of those, not trained as I am, and most certainly not without damaging the suitcase. Luna snarled mentally, stamping a foot in frustration. Thanks to Celeste's drunken attempt to study the sympathy between herself and Twilight, Luna now had barely enough power within her to perform simple spells such as levitation and telekinesis. Thankfully, her ability to raise and lower the night sky and all it contained was not tied to something as simple as her personal magic. Back inside the tent, however, Luna found to her surprise that Twilight still shivered from the cold. Spike being wrapped in some kind of spineless sheepswool blankets. There's nothing for it. The Lunar Princess sighed, began removing her crown, shoes, and breastplate before crawling into the cocoon blankets, wrapping her wings around, slightly smaller, and finally shivering male. This will not become a habit, Twilight sparkled. Yet, within a few minutes of listening to Twilight's teeth stop their chattering, and her whimpers becoming the deep, so whimper of calm sleep, as Luna's body warmth helped restore Twilight's own body to its normal temperature. Luna found herself Light was drifting off to the realm of dreams against her best efforts. Preposterous. I already spent most of the today asleep, she protested weakly as her eyes closed with unusual heaviness. Morning, the next day. Are you sure that Twilight said she couldn't tell us where she's going? Rarity asked, staring right at Spike, who shifted under the appraising gaze, feeling as if he was being interrogated for a crime rather than obeying a royal command. Yeah, she came and tell her friends. What's the princess thinking? Rainbow Dash muttered, rubbing a hoof over the face of the latest release of the Daring Do Not series. Which princess that Twilight referring to was ambiguous, however. Hey, y'all know about how the high-minded ponies cannot twist Twilight's letters? The tan-colored hoof of the Applejack rat on the floor of the library, drawing the attention of the farm pony. Drawing attention to the farm pony. Y'all remember that poor Twilight gotten so upset Spike says that Twilight gonna be writing to us again, and she off with Princess Luna too? Yeah, Twilight really got to focus on her training, or she and Luna are going to be stuck training away from Camelot for months. The baby dragon capitalized on the opening Applejack had given him, puffing his chest out, trying to look imposing. Not her fault, or Princess Celestia's. It's those stuck-up nobles and the gossip ponies that write in the magazines. If not for them, Twilight and Luna wouldn't be away at the training trip. Well, I can't say I approve of Twilight not even leaving us a note, but it is a royal decree. There's not much we can do about it. There's not much we can do. Rarity sighed dramatically, but Spike could see the irritation in the way her mane shook and her eyes twitched. Yeah, but that's not cool. Not cool at all. The sighing wings of Rainbow Dash also gave an irritated twitch before the princess snatched up the new book and began stuffing it into her saddlebag. Twilight's going to majorly owe us for letting this go. After several more exchanges of the same nature, finally Rarity and Rainbow Dash left the library, leaving Spike and Applejack alone to try and figure out what to do next. Now, Spike, I'm sure you understand, but sure as shooting, you'll be giving us those letters, right? Applejack muttered as she helped the baby dragon clean up the mess that Rainbow Dash's search for clues had made of the public area of the library. It's been such a long time since you heard from Twilight. Now she's come home and left without leaving us a note. That's something a pony shouldn't do to her friends. That's not something a pony should do to her friends. And it made us all mighty upset with her, you hear? I hear you, Applejack. Twilight had her reasons, and I passed the message along. I'm sure Twilight would tell us everything what's going on, then write a report on it. Spike added, making both Pony and Dragon chuckle. Besides, she's with Luna. What could possibly go wrong? Scene change. For the second time in many days, Luna found herself in the warm, embarrassing, and very comfortable embrace of Twilight Sparkle, bursting furiously as she tried very hard not to think too much about the warm and fun body snuggled against her, and the all too adorable to call snoring noises Twilight was making with her muzzle lying on top of Luna's neck, half buried in Luna's star escape like mane. Despite the sun clearing the tree line, the air still held the bitterly cold chill of the every forest night, a chill that Luna's night lacked within more civilized areas. A side effect of the wild magic that ran rampant through the region. I could wake her up, or I could try to, no. Hovering over mine. Where are you touching, Twilight? Luna thought desperately, trying not to squirm as Twilight's wing, or more specifically, her primary or flight letters, twitched and slid across Luna's flank and cutie mark. The pale purple unicorn murmuring something unintelligible in her sleep. Mother preserve me! I thought the tear was bad enough. Twilight is molesting me in her sleep. Help! However, near Luna's long vanished mother, there was some other miracle occur, and Luna found herself still entwined with the sleeping cuddle fiend known as Twilight Sparkle. Not that it was entirely a bad thing, but as that rebellious corner of Luna's mind always reminded her. Twilight, despite being a devout Bible-lite, was in excellent physical health in the peak of her youth before becoming a alicorn. The transformation to quasi-divine state was only accentuating her form. Just a few more years and she'd be big as Cadence. Maybe if she really hit the aspect of magic as big as myself, Luna thought to herself, absently stroking Twilight's mane with one hoof as the younger male mumbled again too low to hear and shifted in her sleep, pushing her muzzle further into Luna's mane. And if she's the aspect of friendship, we're gonna need to remodel Canterlot. Although Luna would probably be mortified if anybody saw her right now, she felt happy in this position. This closeness, this warmth, was something that the Luna princess had craved while trapped on the moon in her corrupted form. No awkward tiles to trip over, no political ambitions poisoning the friendships, just a simple and peaceful contact between herself and the opponents she could call friend. Eventually, Twilight began to wake up, blinking barely at Luna at first before returning to her sleepy snuggling, and then the new alicorn went rigged with shock. Ah, here it comes, Luna thought to herself dryly. using her magic without thinking to unwrap both of them from the blankets. Twilight, wide-eyed and pale-faced as she looked down and saw her wing resting possessively on Luna's cutie mark. Luna expected tears, maybe mortified denials or accusings, not have Twilight's eyes roll back in her head and the young Alicorn faint dead away. Still, at least it was postponed from the very awkward conversation of a few minutes, giving Luna the chance to get away, splash her face with some water from the nearby stream, and get a fire going. And the beginnings of breakfast started. Twilight emerged, still blushing, from the tent, and gave a shaky bow to Luna before rushing to the stream to perform her own bathing, missing Luna's sigh. We are equal now. We are equal right now, Twilight. I thought we had solved this issue months ago during Nightmare Night. Luna thought to herself sadly. Although our last encounter, I imagine neither of us were thinking straight right now. Thinking straight. No, perhaps I'm thinking straight. No, perhaps I'm thinking. Luna shook her head to dispel the thought, gritting her teeth in frustration as she stood from the oak porch one final time for ladling out onto two massive tin bowls. Even a full-grown starling would have been challenged to eat the entire amount, but Luna knew from previous experiences that an alicorn that had exhausted much of her power could consume ridiculous amounts of food. Twilight returned to the camp. Came with a clatter of stones. The younger, smaller alicorn face and neck dripping with water, a sheepish smile on her face. Good morning. Good morning, Luna. Twilight stammered, that all too broad smile still on her face. I don't really remember much. You were being chased by giant mobs and lost control of your spell. Luna sighed and tentatively pushed the bowl of steaming porridge towards her student, looking Twilight dead in the eyes. You were so cold you couldn't warm up, that I had no choice but to use my own body to heat yours. I suspected you'd never been this low on magic before I had you. Twilight took the large bowl in her hooves before settling down in front of the fire, shaking her head slowly. Once when I had to stop a urchin miner, but it never felt like this. It's like I'm about to fall over any second. I'm cold right in the core of my body, and my everything feels like made of jelly. Well, with some hot food will help with that. You know, of course, that unicorns need to eat more than other ponies because they're magic. Luna added, honestly chuckling as she watched Twilight stare into the bowl of porridge with all of his hunger. Well, as a newly reborn or ascended alicorn, you will find yourself eating as much food as several ponies could, several times in a day in fact, as your body turns the food into the reserves that it will need when you start becoming a true alicorn. No, I never eat breakfast. Twilight mother, staring into the porridge like it held mysteries of the universe before levitating a spoon-sized amount of porridge into her mouth. I never thought it's strange that Princess Celeste would finish off an entire buffet tray on her own at every meal. She would always eat so daintily, it seems natural somehow. That would be one of her charm spells. Pony will find such hunger to be strange, unnatural even. So Tia weaves a subtle charm about herself, a soft compulsion that makes Pony lose track of time around her when she's eating. Luna explained, frowning slightly. In the old days, we would just have food waiting for us in our private rooms and retire to them 3 or 4 times a day to eat until we were ready to bust and go back to our duties. And twilight, eat. We will do nothing until that bowl is emptied fully. The order Alcorn added tartly as Twilight started to put the bowl to the side. Not only we will both need large amounts of food to replenish our magical reserves, but you have weeks of starving yourself to recover from. But Luna, I can't possibly eat all. Twilight began with a laugh before looking down at her bowl in surprise. Nearly half the oat porridge had disappeared, and given the size of the bowl, it was enough to feed a pony the size of Big Mac. Let alone a slender pony like herself. She had eaten it in just under a minute. Oh, and we need to have a long talk about your new form, Twilight. Luna chuckled as she attached her own breakfast with gusto. But remember, we eat, then we go recover your suitcase from the ruins. Scene change, and she didn't even leave a single note as to where she was going. It's outrageous for Twilight to just brush her friends off like this. Rarity fumed, slapping her hoof down on the herbal bath at the spa, an unusually deep scowl marring her features. I'm beginning to wonder if she even remembers she has friends in Ponyville now she's royalty and all. Or I'm sure it's nothing like that, Rarity. Don't you remember? Twilight had always been there for us. I'm certain Twilight is just so flustered that she forgot. First, I murmured in response, speaking as the large waves slapped against her chest and splashed cloudy up-scented water against her muzzle. Well, perhaps you're right, but still, it would have been 2 weeks since we last received any letters from Twilight. Poor little Spiky Wikey is having to run the library on his own, and he's just a baby dragon after all, the white male muttered, still sulking. Lack of Twilight had affected them in various ways, few of them pleasant. Rainbow Dash had become increasingly slow as her attempts to teach Twilight how to fly had been lost under the swarm of etiquette lessons that Twilight had been forced to undertake. Jack stopped coming to Ponyville except to sell her farmed produce. Pink Pie was sulking of all things. Rarity found herself, while equally cultured male to talk about Canterlot's latest trends. Even Fluttershy had found it harder to mingle with other ponies of Ponyville without Twilight at her side. Oh, I'm sure Twilight will write us again. Maybe even visit us if she gets the chance. Fluttershy murmured smoothly, running a hoof up and down Rarity's arm. Twilight had never let us down, not ever. As her friends, we can wait a little longer, right? Rarity's response was unhappy sniff, but for now at least the problem had been put aside. Scenes change. Wow, it's so tight. Wait, don't push it that way. I don't think I can't. Oh, just hold on. I'm almost there. Sweating and trembling. The two alicorns swayed in unison as their legs were on the verge of buckling. Their wings hang limply with exhaustion and horns pulsing with magic. With a faint cry of effort, the two reeled back, their horns flaring with magic one last time, at two giant stock blocks ground against each other. The gap between them opening slightly, and Twilight's much abused suitcase popping out and landing on top of its exhausted owner. For several minutes, both alicorns lay on the dusty ground of the ruined castle, panting and trying to recover their strength. Both blocks of stone was massive, easily 3 times the size of a pony made of granite, and drained as they were, both Twilight and Luna had struggled to move the blocks enough to release Twilight's luggage. Well, I think we solved two issues. Luna gasped as she struggled to keep her hooves plodding over to the pony Twilight, who still was masked under her suitcase. Our message doesn't cause the resonance effect unless we're physically touching our horns together. We're going to need to eat constantly to replenish our magic. I feel we drain all our reserves, becoming your luggage. Luna and Twilight groaned under her suitcase before Luna dragged the heavily scratched and dusty suitcase off her student. I can't possibly eat. Twilight's protests were cut off by a chorus of loud growling coming from the bellies of both alicorns, and embarrassed giggling that followed. Trust me on this, Twilight. Until we return to our full strength, you'll find yourself eating more food than a regiment of Canterlot's finest soldiers. In your case, you must eat constantly to help fuel the physical aspects of your transformation, or you might end up stunted or even crippled as your body draws upon itself to fuel the changes. Luna explained again as Twilight slowly got to her hooves and managed to throw a weak levitation spell around her suitcase, making it hover a few inches off the ground. Hopefully more than just porridge, Twilight half joked, half pleaded as they slowly walked back to camp. Luna didn't know about Twilight, but the thought of flight right now made her want to lay down and cry. Walking was one thing, but ponies without wings didn't know how tiring flying could be. The reason that there was no such thing as a reason why there was no such thing as a fat Pegasus. I'm thinking around of mulberry jam sandwiches, followed by as much hot tea as we can drink, and then more sandwiches. Miller replied in an impish voice, grinning as Twilight groaned behind her, either in defeat or longing for the food. Tia promised she would be sending more food to us later, but certainly she will understand that we need more now. How will Princess Leslie be doing that? I thought the teleportation magic didn't work at long ranges within the Everfree Forest. Twilight asked as the two weary alicorns trudged back to the campsite. If you send ponies out to live with the food, then they'll tell the nobles where we are, and the princess just can't just duck out of Camelot with a few dozen bags of shopping for us. There is a pony that my sisters suggested we could rely upon. It would take a day for Tia to get the message to them, and another day for the pony to get the supplies to us. Luna replied, looking in the direction the pony field with concern. Tia also mentioned a stranger in these lands. Someone you know, a zebra, I think they're called. Oh, Sakura. Yes, Sakura. She knows a lot about the everfree forest and magic. Her people use magic through alchemy rather than horns like unicorns do, Twilight said briefly. Rightly, her good humor returning rapidly with the recovery of his luggage. A safe topic to discuss. Her people dwell in a land on the far side of the everfree forest, a place of savannas and tropical jungles, where there are only zebras there. No Pegasi, no unicorns, only Earth ponies called zebras. Alchemy magic, huh? I wonder if that's no. It would never teach their secrets to outsiders. Still, at least we know there's at least one friendly face out here to rely on. Talking softly to herself, Luna led the way back to the camp. Yet another meal. Whew, man, that was a long haul.